Feudal Japan was marked by a rigid social structure, strict codes of conduct, and a deep sense of duty and honor. Over the centuries, practices and traditions emerged that, even to modernize, inspire admiration, surprise, and at times shock. In this video, we'll explore 10 of the most intriguing traditions from this fascinating chapter of Japanese history. Among the most distinctive traditions of feudal Japan is Ohaguro, the custom of dyeing one's teeth black. Though it may seem strange today, for centuries, this practice served as an important social and aesthetic marker. Ohaguro was common among members of the nobility, the imperial court, samurai families, and, later on, among married women and kabuki performers. The color was produced with a solution of iron dissolved in vinegar plus plant ingredients, applied regularly to keep the teeth dark and shiny. Culturally, Ohaguro carried several meanings. First, it symbolized maturity, fidelity, and sophistication. Married women blackened their teeth as a sign of marital commitment, while aristocrats and samurai viewed the practice as proof of refinement and respect for social norms. Beyond its symbolism, Ohaguro also offered practical benefits. The iron coating helped protect teeth from cavities and other oral diseases, acting as a primitive dental sealant. The custom began to decline during the Meiji era, from 1868 on, when Japan set out on a course of westernization and cultural modernization. With white teeth newly prized, Ohaguro was gradually abandoned, becoming a symbol of the past. Today, the tradition survives only in stage shows, folk ceremonies, and historical reenactments, remembered as one of ancestral Japan's most peculiar and striking customs. The term Tsujigiri, literally crossroad cutting, refers to an extreme and controversial practice of feudal Japan, testing a new sword or a swordsman's skill on a living victim, often an innocent passerby. The practice was mainly associated with the 15th and 16th centuries, turbulent times such as the late Muromachi era and early Sengoku period, when central authority was weak and clan warfare constant. In its darkest form, Tsujigiri meant ambushing an ordinary person at night, usually at a crossroads, a place that symbolically marked the boundary between the worlds of the living and the dead. The aim was to test the edge of a freshly forged blade, especially a katana, or in some cases, to train lethal combat techniques. Although not all samurai practiced Tsujigiri, historical records and literary accounts confirm it, especially among warriors keen to flaunt prowess or brutality for prestige or intimidation. With Japan's unification under the Tokugawa shogunate in the early 17th century, the practice was formally banned. Acts like Tsujigiri became capital crimes as the new government sought order and stability. Today, the word recalls one of samurai culture's darkest sides, in stark contrast to the honor ideal often linked to the warrior class. In feudal Japan, where honor and personal safety were core values, women of the samurai class adopted their own practices of self-defense and dignity. Foremost was carrying a Kaiken, a small straight-bladed dagger roughly 25 centimeters long. Samurai women traditionally kept the Kaiken tucked inside the kimono sleeve or sash, and it served two main purposes: personal protection and the preservation of honor. While traveling or moving to unfamiliar residences, the dagger offered defense against physical threats. Its more symbolic role, however, lay in the possibility of ritual suicide when facing extreme dishonor, especially rape or imminent capture by enemies. In such situations, a woman could use the dagger to end her life swiftly, preserving her honor, a gesture deemed courageous and worthy within Bushido values. Unlike male seppuku, an elaborate ritual, female suicide with a Kaiken was more discreet, usually a single stroke to the neck or carotid artery to avoid prolonged suffering. Training with the Kaiken began early for noble girls, not merely as technique, but as part of an education in discipline, restraint, and family loyalty. Although today the dagger is recalled mainly in formal ceremonies or Japanese popular culture, it endures as a symbol of the quiet strength, courage, and status of women under feudal Japan's strict code of honor. During feudal Japan, especially in the conflict-heavy Sengoku and Azuchi Momoyama eras, war was constant, and glory on the battlefield offered a direct path to advancement and fame. Out of that context arose the practice known as Kubi-Jikken, or head inspection. After battles, it was common for samurai warriors to take the heads of enemies they had killed and present them as proof of valor. Those heads were gathered at designated spots, where they were carefully examined by military commanders and clan officials. Kubi-Jikken was precisely this evaluation process. The heads were washed, perfumed, and prepared to look presentable. Next, the names, ranks, and strategic value of the fallen foes were identified whenever possible. The warrior responsible earned recognition and sometimes rewards, titles, or promotions in proportion to the victim's prestige. The custom not only elevated individual status, it also served as an informal record of military deeds. It was a way to verify combat reports in an era without formal documentation or verification technology. A strict code of conduct governed the treatment of these heads. To humiliate or disrespect the remains of an honored enemy was deemed shameful. After the Great Civil Wars ended and peace was established under the Tokugawa shogunate in the 17th century, Kubi-Jikken gradually disappeared, remembered only as a harsh reality of medieval Japanese warfare. Among the lesser-known yet culturally significant social practices of feudal Japan was Yobai, literally night visit. It was an old form of courtship practiced mainly among young peasants and carried on for centuries in many regions. In Yobai, a man quietly went to the house of the young woman he fancied at night, usually after everyone was asleep. He would slip silently into her room, often with prior family consent, and spend the night with her, departing at dawn before the household awoke. At the time, the custom was not necessarily seen as promiscuous. In rural settings, it was part of an informal courtship that could end in marriage. Repeated visits, along with the woman's and her family's acceptance, marked the relationship's progress. If society approved, marriage was formalized. Yobai nevertheless demanded discretion, respect, and, in many areas, adherence to specific rules governing the visitor's behavior. Breaking those norms could spark scandal or dishonor, especially if pregnancy occurred without marriage. Over the centuries, and under the growing influence of Confucianism, Christianity, and later Westernization during the Meiji era, Yobai came to be viewed as morally improper and was progressively abandoned. Today, Yobai survives chiefly as a historical curiosity, illustrating the particular social customs and romantic relationships of pre-modern Japan. Mizu-shōbai, literally water trade, refers to the broad nightlife network that flourished in Japan from the Edo period onward, especially in the great cities of Edo, Kyoto, and Osaka. While today the term is used broadly for nightlife activities such as bars, bathhouses, and escort establishments, in feudal Japan it was tied directly to the sophisticated entertainment offered at ochaya, or tea houses, located in the pleasure districts known as yukaku. In these exclusive settings, visitors, typically aristocrats, wealthy merchants, or high-ranking samurai, were received by women trained in conversation, music, poetry, dance, and etiquette. These women were the geisha, central figures of Mizu-shōbai, noted not only for beauty, but for refined culture and artistic mastery. It is important to distinguish that geisha were not courtesans. Their role was to entertain with elegance and subtlety, creating an atmosphere of culture and sophistication. The oiran, on the other hand, who worked in licensed brothels, held elevated status as well, but combined artistic talent with intimate services. The world of Mizu-shōbai was highly ritualized, with its own dress codes, language, and behavior. Taking part in it signified status and prestige, and many business deals and political alliances arose in these informal surroundings. With Japan's modernization in the late 19th century, that world underwent deep transformations, yet its cultural legacy lives on. The image of the geisha and the traditions of the tea houses remain vivid symbols of elegance, art, and the social complexity of feudal Japan. The shonmage was one of feudal Japan's most emblematic hairstyles, strongly associated with the samurai class. More than an aesthetic choice, the style carried profound meanings of social identity, status, and discipline. The hairstyle involved shaving the crown of the head while leaving the side and nape hair long, then gathering it carefully into a top knot on the crown. That knot was folded forward and tied precisely, producing an instantly recognizable, distinctive look. Originally, the chonmage had a practical purpose. Shaving the crown made it easier to wear the kabuto, the samurai helmet, preventing discomfort and heat build-up in combat. Over time, however, the style came to represent honor and commitment to the warrior's path, bushido. Losing the shonmage could symbolize humiliation or disgrace. In some punishments, forcible cutting of the knot publicly dishonored a samurai or declared his expulsion from the warrior order. During the long peace established by the Tokugawa shogunate, the chonmage remained a badge of the warrior elite and was later adopted by other groups, such as kabuki actors and sumo wrestlers, who still evoke the tradition today. With the Meiji Restoration in 1868 and the nation's push to modernize, wearing the chonmage was discouraged and eventually formally banned for officials and government servants as part of adopting Western customs. Even so, the shonmage endures as one of feudal Japan's most iconic visuals, instantly calling to mind the samurai and his strict code of honor. In the intricate world of feudal Japan's politics and warfare, strategy and deception mattered as much as sheer force of arms. Within that context emerged the kagemusha, a term meaning shadow warrior or general's shadow. A kagemusha was a trained double who posed as a warlord, usually a daimyo or high-ranking general, to fool the enemy or sustain troop morale. His task was delicate. He had to reproduce exactly the leader's gestures, posture, voice, and even habits, especially in public appearances or on campaign. Such substitution was vital at strategic moments, such as after a commander's sudden death. Maintaining the facade of leadership could avert panic, prevent desertions, and buy precious time until new command was established. The most famous case involves Daimyo Takeda Shingen, a great 16th century commander. After his death, his army hid the news for 2 years, using a kagemusha to keep up the illusion that he still led them. An episode later inspiring Akira Kurosawa's film, Kagemusha. Being a kagemusha required not only physical resemblance, but absolute loyalty and formidable self-control. Failure could doom an entire campaign or cost the imposter his life. With the end of the civil wars and power centralization under the Tokugawa shogunate, the kagemusha grew rare and eventually vanished. Yet the figure endures as a compelling symbol of psychological warfare and of the weight of image and presence in Japanese military culture.